Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my Grue Rume Show. And for the Grue Rume Show today, we got an amazing filmmaker, and his name is Todd Sheets. And he has a new film coming out called Final Caller. And I'm a really big fan of his work, as you know. I'm a big horror fan, and Todd does horror films. And he's known for Clownado and Bone Hill Road, two really good horror films. If you never got a chance to see them, I highly recommend you see them. And now we're going to talk about them plus his new film, Final Caller. I am Rocco Cross. I am the host at Stutters. I am the host of the Grue Room. And my interview with Todd Sheets will be coming up very soon. This is my Grue Room, and welcome to my nightmare. Stay tuned. Okay, welcome to Grue, and thanks so much for taking time out of your night and coming on the show.
Hey, man. Great to be here. Pretty excited.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. So, the first thing I wanted to say is, you're well known for making great horror films, and what drew you to love horror so much?
Well, when I was a kid, I pretty much spent a lot of time at the drive-in, and horror was a pretty big deal at the drive-ins, in the 70s. And so it kind of evolved from there, my love of horror films. And then, of course, the creature features that were on the weekends. And I used to really dig all the monsters because I felt like, man, they were just misunderstood dudes. Like the creature in the Black Lagoon didn't ask for any crap. And then he gets shot by people, he's just swimming around. So I felt like, okay, this poor dude, and then the wolf man, he didn't ask for any trouble. He's walking along and gets bit, and then he's all kind of messed up once a month.
Right.
So, it all kind of, back then especially, it kind of spoke to me, a kid, who had moved around a lot, and kind of unstable. And I'd go see a horror film and or go see a science fiction movie, or sometimes, watch Batman or whatever. But these things would take the crappy part of your day away for 90 minutes or 2 hours and allow you to escape into a world that, wasn't real. There's no connection to reality there. It's just crazy fun. And, that's kind of the reason I got into it, was kind of just to give back. Like, maybe I could help some other kid have a better day, or, something, because, it's all about entertaining people. And that was my way of trying to give back to the genre that, that helped me so much.
Oh, wow. Okay. And why did you start making films?
Well, I always loved movies, and my dad had Super 8 camera and film.
Nice.
He would kind of go out and film like family gatherings or, holidays or whatever. So I basically just, I swiped his camera, and my friends went out. And we started making these Frankenstein movies, or Captain America, or, all these different goofy movies. And then he'd go to get it for the holidays, and he'd be like, "Where's my film?" It's all gone. So, I got in trouble for it. But I tell you what, it was a good start. And I learned how to edit by basically cutting the film on this splicer, the Super 8 splicer we had in case the films broke. I used it to edit the film. And then I would put an extra soundtrack on with our projector, because you could dub onto one of the magnetic sound strips on the film. So that's how it was very crude, but that's how I started teaching myself to do that stuff.
Oh, wow. All right. And
the good old days before video.
Right. And what was the first horror movie you ever made?
Oh man, it was like Blood of Frankenstein's Castle or some ridiculous thing like that. It was just this thing. The first legitimate horror film I made was Zombie Rampage, which at the time was called Blood of the Undead. And this was in the 80s, like started in 88 and filmed it pretty much all through 89, just when we could. And it was a terrible experience that made me almost want to quit the business right then and there, because it was just such a nightmare. But
oh wow,
because it was so different back then to try to make movies, man. It was just such a difficult. And then you deal with people who are really difficult on top of it. We had some great people involved, but we also had a few, like the cameraman was a jerk and would hold us for ransom because I didn't own the camera. So he was like, yeah, we'll do it. And I'd pay him what he asked for. And then he would come up and go, yeah, man, I've got to, if I'm going to do this anymore, I got to get some more money. And he would just hold us for ransom and just
Oh my
terrible
God.
stuff going on. And then half the cast was in college, but it took so long to get it filmed because of this guy that some of them didn't come back after spring or Christmas break. It was Christmas break. And they didn't come back. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I got a half finished movie. Oh, it was a nightmare, and just on with the problems, and people who, like our investor, just disappeared, just blew out, couldn't find him. All his phones were disconnected. We're like, what? And so he left me with a price tag on all this stuff that I'd been renting. And so I would, like, at the end of the day, like 40 grand because I was doing everything by the book back then. Wow. And I had to take like 2 or 3 jobs just to pay that off. It was a real nightmare making a movie back in those days.
Damn, it sounds
and
like
the movie's awful too. You know, there's parts I like, but you watch that movie and you're like, God dang, this movie, what am I doing? Why did I waste my time and money? But then, that's where we all start. I think we all start there. And a lot of people allow their mistakes to get put in closets. And they take them out when their friends come and they laugh. And then I allowed mine to get worldwide distribution. So I was like, okay, that's a real good idea. So.
Well, at least it was seen worldwide, right?
No, it was. Yeah, the VHS days were very kind. I was a big fan of David Dakota, who worked for Full Moon, and he's a great guy, and he was my mentor. Kind of took me under his wing. I showed him my work, and he said, man, he saw some kind of spark in there, some kind of promise, and he put it out on VHS and all around the world. It made a pretty big, splash. It ended up everywhere, and then for the next, several years, I was learning my craft. I consider my first real film to be Zombie Bloodbath in 1993, even though all these other movies, I filmed like 8 movies or 9 before that. I kind of disowned those a little bit, but it's only because I had no clue what I was doing. But, I loved working with the people that worked on those, and I feel bad saying I kind of disowned the movies, but the movies themselves were god awful. Our short films I did as a kid on Super 8 were better than this. I was like, but you live and learn, But it was a different time in those days. It was the Wild West, I call it, with VHS and all the crazy stuff going on. And, I started doing internships and I worked on movies like Child's Play 3 and stuff like that. I started learning from people that I worked with. J.R. Bookwalter, he taught me some stuff, and Fred Olin Ray and Dave Dakota, all these guys were helpful to me in so many ways. And then I started getting better, thank goodness. So there you go.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, because wasn't David was known for the Brotherhood films, right?
Oh, he did some of those. Yeah. Mainly for me, it was Creepazoids, Sorority Babes, and the Slime Ball Bullet-rama.
Yes.
Dream Maniac, stuff like that, Nightmare Sisters. And I was a huge fan of those movies because he and Fred kind of invented the whole Scream Queen subgenre. Fred did stuff like Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers and movies like that.
Yeah.
So together they kind of, and with Jim Wynorski's a good buddy, and they did, all 3 of these guys kind of created a genre all of their own on the VHS thing that kind of became well known today. The Scream Queen thing and the B movie thing and things like Dinosaur Island and all those, that all came out of that group of people during the 80s that kind of took the VHS thing by storm, and they didn't need theaters anymore. They were in your living room. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, true. Yeah, definitely. Wow. I forgot he made all those films. Yeah.
Yeah, he's made a ton of movies, and just such a good-hearted guy. And, he really did a lot for this Midwest kid that knew nothing. He's still to this day. When I go out to LA, we hang out and I do make all my rounds with all my friends out there, and we still to this day he's still teaching me things. So it's pretty cool.
Nice. And two horror films you did that I loved was Clownado and Bone Hill Road. How did both films wound up happening?
Well, I've always been a werewolf fan, but I get tired of the same kind of werewolf movie where it's just someone gets bit and then you follow them through the movie and then they're all sad and then they're trying to heal and then all of a sudden they turn into a werewolf and they're afraid they're going to kill their family and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, I want to do something different. I want to make a werewolf movie kind of like Night of the Living Dead, where the main story isn't so much the werewolves, but the werewolves are there. And werewolves themselves, I don't think are evil. I think they're just there. They're werewolves, for God's sake. They're trying to eat. You know, they're hungry. They can't just go up to McDonald's drive-through. They got to have some food, and you're in their neighborhood. So they were like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna get some food here." And these two poor women, they get lost, and their car breaks down, and they get all kinds of troubles. And they run into a tree, and so then the next thing you know, they're just wandering around, and there's werewolves out here, and then so they're trying to find some help, and they go in this house, and then all kinds of crazy stuff's at the house. So without ruining it, I don't want to ruin the twist, but people have said this isn't even a werewolf movie, but if you really look at the time the werewolves are on screen, they're absolutely on screen quite a lot. They're on there the whole opening, the whole ending. There's only a little section in the middle where I'm developing the story with this other twist that the werewolves kind of take a back seat for a minute, but I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do, and we had no money. We were like, this movie probably should have cost $150,000, and we had $13,000, and we had to have 4 werewolf suits.
Oh wow!
All right, we had 4 heads. 2 of the heads came from London. This guy, just a fantastic GDS effects, and he did these fantastic werewolf heads for us, and we just had so much, all the effects cost so much money that we were left with about $2,000 to actually make the movie. So we're like, okay. But we did the best we could. I was kind of proud of the way it turned out. I wanted to tell a good story. A lot of people, some of the gore hounds get mad when you tell a good story. They're just like, hey man, you didn't cut off a nut sack in the first 3 seconds of this movie. I'm done. But we're like, hi, all right, we'll throw you a bone. We'll cut off a nut sack somewhere in the movie. Just calm down.
Right.
But
right.
It was a good time. And then a friend of mine that I work with, a good buddy named Daryl, he and I were joking around. He's like, you need to make a NATO movie. I go, what do you mean NATO? He goes, because everything's Sharknado and this NATO and that NATO. He goes, man, that's where it's at. And then I go, well, what the hell? I just finished this werewolf movie. I'm taking a break. He goes, no, you should have made Wolf NATO. And then we're just
NATO.
Cracking up. And then he goes, what you should make is Clownado. Everyone's afraid of clowns. And I said, whoa, that kind of does have a ring to it.
Yeah.
But I would have to make the most ridiculous movie I could imagine. And because with a title like Clownado, you can't just make good drama. No one would be happy. So you have to go, what am I going to do? And so we fleshed out this crazy story, and I kind of wanted to make it like the clowns are stuck, especially the main one, and he kind of trains all the others, and he's kind of stuck in this gangster mentality from the 40s, not like the gangsters nowadays, or run around doing hip hop. But like this, we're talking about like the 40s, the 30s, so he's kind of stuck in that noir kind of way. And so he's talking like that for no absolute reason. And then his clowns are trained that way. So that's his boys. And so then they're like doing all this stuff. And then, so this girl, she's like, she's going to take off. She's going to rob him. And she's got her boyfriend, and it's his lady, he thinks. So this whole thing kind of progressed out of that, where I'm like, yeah, man. So there's a love triangle, and there's these 2 guys, and then there's her, and she's going to steal and go off with this other guy. And then that other dude gets killed, and then she starts getting tortured as part of the clown act in the carnival thing, and this really twisted carnival. And then I was like, yeah, but then she gets mad, and so she wants to have revenge, and so she talks to the witch fortune teller lady that's part of the carnival, and they come up with this plan, and they're going to do this big spell. Only none of it works right, and so the spell screws everything up, and the clowns become part of this tornado, and they just go riding the tornado around, and it's pretty ridiculous. And I even was like, yeah, and I've got to have like this little clown that comes ripping out of a bigger clown, and we got to do all this. And again, here I am trying to do a movie with like tornado effects and everything on like literally like, we had a budget of like, when we first started, $9,000 something. It eventually went up to 10 or whatever. But we started out so low budget, and we had all this clown stuff to buy and all this makeup and all these effects. And then I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? So I had to teach myself how to create tornadoes in in these effects programs because I don't like CGI at all. All the gore in my films is always practical. I don't want to do CGI. But when it came to making a tornado, even though there was talk that we were going to try to do it practically out in LA with Joe Castro, we were like, yeah, we can build this thing. We can make this look good. We can actually make a tornado. And we had ways to do it, but we had to build miniatures and everything. Well, then when our budget didn't go up, we were like, well, we have no money. So we can't make the miniatures alone would have been $5,000, So we were like, damn, so we're just going to have to go in and I got to teach myself how to do this. And so that's what I did. I don't know, man. So I think considering no money plus that, I think the film turned out okay. It is supposed to be, a lot of people forget that it's supposed to be ridiculous. And, it's divided down the middle. We got people who absolutely love that movie and we got people who absolutely hate that movie. So there's no middle ground. And I'm like, well, I can understand both sides really, because if you're not into that kind of thing, you're probably like idiots. But if you knew that, we made this movie with basically no money and we had to teach ourselves the effects and everything else for the tornadoes effects and everything. I think that kind of changes the perspective a little bit when you realize that, you couldn't even buy a good used car for what we spent on this movie, so come on, man.
Okay. And the one, one of the things that I love about your horror films is you never shy away from gore, and I'm guessing you're a big fan of doing gore, right?
Well, I grew up on these movies that were like Italian horror films, Lucio Fulci, Dario Argento, Roberto Bava, people like that. Then Spanish horror with Paul Naschy and Leon Klimovsky and all these, amazing people that, I looked up to so much, Armando de Osorio, and they were good at telling a good story, but also shocking people. And when I first started, of course, you're all like Bart Simpson. You're like, oh man, look, I'm gonna creep them out and shock them all. But then, you get older, you want to tell a good story also. But at the same time, that's kind of my thing is let's keep it moist. Let's throw some blood in here. So it's like we decided that, if we're going to do it, let's go all the way with it. Let's make it, entertaining, but also like completely splatterific. And so I was really, Dead Alive. Evil Dead, of course, is one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, I love that movie.
The original, I actually saw that on the original theatrical run. No one knew what it was. And I started dragging all my friends to it, because no one was seeing it. If the theater was like 10 people in there, no one cared. And I started dragging all these people to see it in the theater. But I remember Andy Warhol's Frankenstein in 3D was gory as hell. And that was in theaters in the 70s. And all these great, drive-in movies were always either had blood, breasts, or beasts, as Joe Bob says. And it's true.
Exactly.
So and so we, so it was a really cool movie if it had all three. Then you got a winner. So we, we kind of followed that principle all of my career, and we still do. I mean, even with Final Caller, the newest one coming out, we still kind of follow that same principle. I mean, it's got it all. So we're trying, and on that, especially that movie, we were so frustrated with Indiegogo because I love the people who support you. But the problem with Indiegogo is you have to ship all these things and the postal service never gets the packages there. And so like we ended up spending to like almost double, sometimes almost 3 times as much as we would have to send these things because like people don't get, sometimes I'm sending people 3 packages just so they can get their package. And then people are mad at me like, you didn't send it. Don't bullshit me. And I'm like, well, here's the tracking. We did send it.
Oh, wow.
But it just didn't get there, man. And that's hard. So we were so frustrated with that after 2 movies that we decided, look, this new movie, it's, we're just going to do it ourselves. We were bored. Let's make a movie. I'm going to put it on the credit card. We're going to just do it ourselves, really cheap. Just a few locations, just try to do something really intense, claustrophobic, fun, and with lots of gore. And the weird thing was, we started out and everything was great. And then 2 weeks in, COVID hit. And so then we lost our main actor for health reasons, and we had to go back and we had to reshoot all that stuff. And we ended up moving the cast around and changing things up, and we still got it done. we got it done very carefully, but we had to finish it up. And everyone's like, I can't believe you made that during the beginning of the pandemic. Everyone else was making like Zoom movies or like Facebook films or whatever. And I'm like, no, what's the point of that? We wanted to finish what we started. So we're and it was all about that, man. It was all about the gore. And on this movie, we didn't really have an effects guy, like one guy. We just kind of did it all ourselves. We're just like, I'll do this gag and you do that gag. Because I just got started doing makeup when I was on those Super 8 movies. So I was like, I know how to do a lot of this stuff. We just decided just to do it ourselves, have a good time, and do it on. I mean, you probably couldn't buy 2 weeks worth of groceries for what we spent on that movie. And I'm really proud of the way it turned out. I'm really, really pleased with it. I really liked it.
Nice. And what inspired you to make this new horror film coming out, Final Caller?
Well, what inspired me basically, again, we had made Clownado. It had been a while since we made a movie.
Yeah.
Because we were doing press for that and kind of getting that going and pushing that. And I was re-editing some of the older films from my catalog because those are all going to be coming out like starting in just a few weeks. All the older movies are coming back out in America. So I've been remastering those and I was doing a lot of that, but we hadn't made a movie in about a year. And I'm like, man, we got to do something. So then I had this spark of an idea because I do radio also. I have a show called Night Watch and it's syndicated on 420 stations worldwide. Nice. And so I was like, I want to do something about a radio host. And then I kind of got the thought, well, what if this guy is the biggest jerk ever, like shock jock DJ radio guy, like Howard Stern on steroids, really a jerk. And then like there's a serial killer out there that loves his show. And the serial killer's like, you're my favorite show ever. And he wants to kill somebody live on the air. So he calls him. And then it gets worse because then the shock jock guy doesn't believe him. It's like, oh man, you're full of crap. And he thinks it's the guy and his girlfriend or something playing a joke over the phone. And he's like, why don't you go to hell or whatever? And that sets this guy off because then he feels like he has to prove that he's real. And this whole big ball of chaos starts. And so that's kind of what I was getting into. Yeah, with the film, I wanted it to be kind of like, and there's one main location, which is like the studio where the radio show is. And then there's like these outer locations where the killer's at when he calls to, hey, I'm killing this person. And so that's like another location. So we had like basically 4 or 5 locations and kept it really intimate, had a small cast and really made it just extremely brutal and to the next level on that. But I just wanted to make something kind of fun, kind of a make people be entertained for 90 minutes and just let loose, just let loose, tell a good story.
Oh wow, I'm really looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah, it's a pretty good flick for sure. It's I mean I say that because I made it, but not because I made it either, because I'm very hard on myself. So when I go back and I watch other movies, like I'll watch Clownado and I'll be like, I need to re-edit this movie, or I'll go and I'll watch Bone Hill Road and I'll love it, but then I'll hate these parts. And so I know the weaknesses. Something a lot of times that's just because of the budget, we don't have that we need. But this movie, when I show it to people and when I watch it and when I've taken it to film festivals or whatever, I love to watch it with an audience because it really seems to work. Like at first they're kind of like, what is this? What's going on? But then like it really starts to work. You start to care about the characters and you start to care about what's going on. And like the opening scene alone is like a punch in the gut. And one of the things I like doing, and especially in this one, was we opened with a scene and then we kick into the movie proper. And then you find out later that scene comes back and you see that scene from a different perspective. So at the first of the movie, you see the killer at this place doing this thing from the perspective of the killer. And then later that same scene, because it's actually the middle of the movie. So that starts in the middle of the movie, then flashes back to the beginning. And then you get back to that middle scene. And now you're seeing it from the other side of the perspective of the people on the radio dealing with it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. We like to do these. I want every movie I make to be different. Like I want everyone to have a different style, a different look, a different scope. And that way, like it seems, maybe it's just me, but it just seems like if you get stuck doing the same kind of movie over and over, how's that pushing your creativity, And if you're on the set, every day on the set is a learning experience. Nobody's ever an expert. And like Spielberg said, every single time you get on that set, you learn so much. You become a different director. And for me, one day on the set without learning something new is a wasted day on the set.
Okay.
And so I feel like I want to learn something new. And by doing these different types of horror, it's like pushing me to that next area. Like I've never done this before. Let's try it. If I fail, that's on me, but I'm going to try. I'm going to give it everything I've got. And I'm going to really try to make it work. And that way I'm pushing myself as an artist and a storyteller to do something better for the people who watch my movies, because without the people watching them, there'd be no reason to make them. That's the whole reason I'm doing it, is to entertain people and to give back to a genre that I love so much. So it's really all about that. It's not, I've never taken a salary on any movie I've ever made, still to this day.
Oh, wow.
Every dime that we have, I put right into that movie, because that's the only way to do it. I want to entertain somebody and do the best job I can do. Sometimes I fail, sometimes I don't, but every movie I at least try to put something in there. Even those early movies that I kind of disowned, at least there's something in there that I think, well, a couple of spots I'm kind of proud of, here or there, even if the movie's terrible, but I still think, well, at least, I did something good here and there. I learned something. But you just kind of keep pushing yourself forward. And with Final Caller, this was a chance to do something that was totally different again, in a claustrophobic setting. A smaller group of people. Instead of like 30 cast members, you have like 9, or 10, and you just kind of pull it all together and make it very intense and make it to where everything happens in just a few locations. And I just wanted to try something different and build suspense and build intensity. And I kind of think we pulled it off. I was pretty proud of it.
Oh, sweet. Nice. And I know the film isn't out yet, but without giving too much away about the film, is there a certain scene that you like filming the most?
Man, the cool thing about making these movies is the collaboration with the people that I get to work with, and the fun that we get to have creating things. And when I say fun, it's not always like fun, but when we're done, like sometimes it's grueling, it's very difficult, and it's very hard, and it rips your soul out. But when you're done with it and you look at it, then you're like, wow, that was pretty cool. And then I still have a good time working with the people. And one of the things, the cast on this is very strong, I thought. Alex Brotherton is usually my assistant director on these movies, and he had to end up taking a part because, like I said, we lost the main actor. We moved people around, and Douglas ended up being the main actor. Douglas did a fantastic. He was so nervous every day on the set. He was a bundle of nerves, but he did such a good job playing the main, like the radio show host. When you see it, you'll know he's a jerk. But he did such a good job. And the serial killer, who's called the Outsider, was played by Jack McCord. He also did an incredible job. I mean, he's creepy as hell. He made me kind of, I was like, damn, Jack, where's this coming from, man? I've known you for a long time. I don't know. I'm not going to go eat with you anymore. And then we also had Rachel Logan, who was fantastic, and Dylan Von Harvey, Antoine Steele. They all bring this amazing thing. And we had a newcomer, kind of. Her daughter was in Bone Hill Road. Jane Plumberg, her daughter Anna, was the little girl in Bone Hill Road. Well, in this movie, she played a part in this movie. She plays Roland's soon-to-be ex-wife. She'd never done anything like this before, but she had the enthusiasm. And I'm like, I want to keep this very small with people I know, and people I know will show up, and people I can trust, and people I believe in. And she absolutely nailed it. My God, she was so good. And so when I watched this back, I'm like, everybody in this movie played such a strong part, and really had all the victims of the serial killer were great. And so when I try to think of a favorite scene to film, it's weird because going through it, we were behind schedule because we had to reshoot so much stuff because of that lead actor problem. Yeah. But then, and I broke my foot, so I'm walking around, hobbling around the set, with a broken foot, trying to do this, but at the end of the day, I think it all was a pretty good experience. It was difficult, and there was times when I felt like I was going to scream. But and I did once or twice, which I never do. I'm not a screaming director, but I pulled a full cheek once or twice. But I always apologize after, and everyone's like, "What are you talking about? You didn't yell." I'm like, "Really?" Because I thought I like tore someone's head off. I don't know, but I guess I wasn't so bad. But through it all, I get to that point where I think back on it, and I'm like, I think it was all a pretty good experience because I learned a lot. And of course, the gore effects when you're shooting those and you see the footage back, you're kind of like, wow, we pulled that off. And that's pretty amazing. There was a couple of things in there that I was really proud of. I really liked the opening of the film and with the lighting and some of the effects. And I really liked some of the stuff we pulled off. So I don't really have a favorite scene, man. I'm sorry to disappoint. I just have, it was a good experience only because we were able to do something with nothing and create a new piece of art in the world, if that's what you want to call it. I don't know that I call it that. I'm not pretentious in any way. I'm a grindhouse guy, man. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
But I think the one thing I do know is every time, like when you sit down, you write a script and you actually create it into a film, all these people come together to bring a new life into the world. It may not be a life, person, but it's a life nonetheless, because it outlives all of us. These movies I've learned, especially with those early movies I tried to bury that will not go away. Let me tell you, you can't, they think about, Lon Chaney Jr., he's been gone for a long time, but the Wolfman is still here.
Yeah.
And these movies will live on somewhere, somehow, for years and years, and they have a life of their own. And so you really do create a cinematic life that people, you're creating a whole world and bringing people into that world to enjoy it and to watch it. And hopefully you do a good job. At least I hope I did. And that's the key, is you just want to do a real good job so people are entertained and they don't think that you've wasted their life.
Oh, wow. And what are some horror films that you just love to watch, like horror films you never get tired of watching?
That's a good question. There's a huge list, man. I'll give you some highlights. I'll give you the highlight reel. Of course, the original Evil Dead, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, before it got diluted with whatever the hell's going on. Anything by John Carpenter, because to me, I love his movie about Elvis. John Carpenter is like the best American filmmaker in my mind. Personally, and up there with him, of course, are John Landis, Dave Dakota, Fred Ray, all these guys, Jim Wynorski, these guys, Lloyd Kaufman, all the crazy stuff for all different reasons. A lot of people would say James Cameron, Steven Spielberg. I love them too, but I'm talking about my personal favorites. Russ Meyer, people that shaped me to be who I am. Movies by Lucio Fulci, like if I mention my favorites, how can you not mention The Beyond and Gates of Hell? And even stuff like New York Ripper, I love it. It's Fulci. I love everything. I love everything he's done. He's got something about his style, and I love his old westerns. I love all that. Argento, up until after opera, like when he started doing trauma in those movies, I think he lost something, because to me, he was a master. He's Suspiria, Deep Red, Inferno, one of my favorites. A lot of people don't mention that one. Terror at the Opera, I think, is his masterpiece.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So that. Stuff like that. Those are my favorites. And then I go into my, my top 10's always got The Howling, because I love Joe Dante, another wonderful American filmmaker, and American Werewolf in London, one of the greatest werewolf. Both of those are just right up there.
Definitely.
And Fred Decker, I like his stuff. Night of the Creeps. I'm really good friends with the Bradster. Alan Kaiser is a good buddy of mine from Night of the Creeps, and so and I'm also friends with Jason. I love it because I'm friends with two of the leads of that movie, and I'm like, man, this it's so great to be able to. That movie inspired me so much as a kid, and now to have friends that were part of that movie that we hang out and we see each other a few times a year, and I just love those guys, and Jason Lively and Alan Kaiser. They're just fantastic people. But you go through and you find things that inspire you, and of course I was inspired by Tim Burton, just because he's such a great filmmaker. John Hughes is a great filmmaker. So any of these movies, it's so weird. You kind of look back on them and you go, God, man, why do I love these movies so much? Some of these horror films, like H.G. Lewis was a pal of mine, Herschel Gordon Lewis, and And I watch those movies and I love them, but everyone looks at me like I'm insane. Why do you love these movies? I don't know why, but I'll watch the gruesome twosome 600 times and love it. I never get tired of those. But other people try to watch them with me and they're like out the door. They're like, oh, what the hell are you doing, buddy? And I don't get it, but I guess, you know, they're bored or whatever, or they just don't understand what's going on. But when the wigheads start talking, they're out, they're gone. So it's like, okay, well, I just, Roger Corman, of course, who could not love Roger Corman, for God's sake? So there's so many. Humanoids from the Deep is one of the greatest movies of all time. All these great films. Slumber Party Massacre, the original. Yes. I don't know why they remake these. Yes. My advice is quit remaking something. Make something new, man, because all you're doing.
I know, exactly.
People today don't make movies the same way they made movies when Slumber Party Massacre was made. Mm-hmm. So to remake that in 2021 or 2020 or whatever is the dumbest idea.
It is.
Just re-release the original and give it some bells and whistles. But you know what? This is bull, because they don't make movies the same. It's not the same aesthetic. It doesn't look the same. It doesn't feel the same. And everyone knows the gore will not be the same. So what's the point?
Exactly.
Unless you watch something by like one of us indie guys, then our gore will be the same because that's what we love. That's what we grew up on. We want to make things that are like that. No one's making movies like Gates of Hell. I mean, look around. City of the Living Dead, nobody's making that movie anymore.
I know those. Oh my God, those movies are classic.
The lighting, the everything about it, the storytelling, the atmosphere, the music. And I'll tell you a little anecdote. We did House of Forbidden Secrets. That was my big comeback film because I had a heart attack. I had quadruple bypass surgery in 2012. And my big comeback from that was to do this movie, House of Forbidden Secrets. And so I was looking for someone to do the theme song. And I reached out to Fabio Frizzi and I said, Fabio, can you do the theme song? He said, send me the script. Send me, what you've shot so far in a rough cut or whatever. Let me look at it. So I sent it. He sends me back a message. Lucio would be proud because Fabio did a lot of soundtracks with Lucio. He did so many of those movies. And he said, I'll tell you what, I'll do the whole movie.
What?
And I freaked out so bad. And so Fabio Frizzi was our main contributor to soundtrack on House of Forbidden Secrets. Wow. And the friendship we formed was just unbelievable. And the fact that this, we even have some of the music from the Beyond in there as a little cameo. We have a scene like that takes place in a brothel and in a flashback to the 40s and or 50s. And he gave us, he needed some jazz music or something in there. Yeah. And he gave us a clip of music from the Beyond to use in there. Wow. It's just like, wow. So there's some really cool stuff. And then he wrote an all original soundtrack and it's just so breathtaking. And it just feels like a Fulci movie. It's got the lighting, it's got this great atmosphere and then his music. And it just, that was a fantastic experience coming back from almost death. And then the same year filming this movie that turned out to be my big comeback. And people were freaking out. They're like, holy crap, is this the same guy? Because before I left, I was making kind of junky, kind of SOV, shot on video, super VHS movies. Then I came back and I made this House of Forbidden Secrets. We had a decent budget. And it's got crane shots and dolly shots and all these cool people like George Hardy from Troll 2 and Ilsa Shewell for the SS herself is in this. Diane Thorne and Lloyd Kaufman is in it. And just Ari Lehman, the first Jason, and then Lou Temple, my good buddy. Lou's a good friend. He was on Walking Dead at the time, and he's in the movie as one of our main evil characters, and he was so great to work with. I love Lou. And so we had all these great people. And then Alan Kaiser comes on, the Bradster himself from Night of the Creeps. And I'm like, dude, this is just the best cast ever. And then I had a bunch of great local people that were involved too, that were great cast. And man, that movie, I was really proud of that movie. The Gorehounds were like, dude, hold on a minute. This isn't as gory as your other movies. That's because I'm telling a story. This is my comeback. I'm also doing something a little more polished, a little more mainstream, just for my movie back to kind of announce that I'm back. I survived the heart attack and I'm still here. And then, but it's still got insane amounts of gore, but it's just not, I guess, as frequent as some of my older movies. But the gore, I mean, they wishbone a girl, for God's sakes, all the way up to her neck. I mean, it's pretty gory.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's got a lot of gore in it, but just not, it just doesn't have as much gore as, like, you know, it wasn't every 5 minutes. I kind of spread the gore out more to tell the story of this haunted place. It's also in a time loop of some kind. It's really cool. I suggest anyone that wants to see something kind of different from me, check that out. And then I got mad, so because people give me hell for not enough gore. So then after that, I made Dreaming Purple Neon in 2016, and that movie is the goriest movie I've ever made. That movie is like balls to the wall from beginning to end. Now, I do establish a few characters, which people were pissed at. Yeah, the first 15 minutes, man. The first 15 minutes, he's got some talking, but then once it goes. Well, yeah, because once that 15 minutes is over, the very opening of the film has a guy getting shot in the face, for God's sakes, I don't know. But then once that 15 minutes of developing characters and getting you into the story, then we go, and it's nonstop. It's like blood, breasts, and beasts, man. We got monsters, we got gore, we got nudity, we got everything. And not only, I mean, I'm turning it upside down in that movie. We used so much blood, I lost count. It was just so much blood. And with me, it was like, let's make sure. Everyone's like, how's that? I'm like, nope, it's got to go higher. We're spraying that stuff 20 feet in the air. Let's go.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, I was like, you want to say I didn't make enough gore in the last one? Let me show you something. So we showed him this movie, and which was our goriest film ever, and that's saying a lot, considering like zombie bloodbath and everything we did.
Yeah.
So it's saying a lot that became our big gore film. But I suggest anyone who, and there's a newer version where we went back and kind of because the Japanese market wanted something with a little more condensed, like they wanted more action, and I found some footage on a second camera that I had totally forgot we shot, because some of the effects we shot with 2 cameras. I was like, oh my God, I forgot we did that. So I was able to pull more gore and more nudity and put it in there. And so then that's the Grindhouse version, and it's going to be, you know, I just got done finished mastering it. So that's for the Japanese market, but it's also going to probably end up being released here in America.
Oh my God, nice.
Yeah, that's a really, wow. I mean, if you want gore and you want exploitation, that's the one, nonstop.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm definitely gonna look out for that.
If you send me over your email, man, send me your email, and I will. I'll send you some screeners for this stuff.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, definitely.
And you can talk about them. And you can say how you loved them or how much you hated them. Either way, it's okay.
Oh man, yeah, definitely, for sure. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. I've been told that I'm evil to critics because I go after critics who are harsh to us, and that's not true at all. Look, I can't please everybody. No one can.
Well, yeah, of course.
If you love my movies, you love them. If you don't, you don't. But what I did go after some guy for was because he was attacking the people in the film on a personal level. And he was causing them trouble with their career, and he was sending hate mail, and he was like sending death threats and things. Yeah, so it was really bizarre. So yeah, I went after him and I took his ass to court and I won. So there you go. But I didn't want to. It was just because I was like, dude, if you don't like the movie, that's fine.
Yeah.
But he's going after Linnea Quigley of all people, trying to trash her, and it kind of hurt her on a couple of jobs. She lost a couple of jobs because of his insane. And he had some friends, and what they would do is this guy and these 5 other guys were his friends. They would go on to things and make fake accounts on IMDb and on Amazon, and they would just trash the movie repeatedly. And sometimes they would almost write the same review word for word. And I'm like, don't you guys supposed to have a filter for this on IMDb? And, and then he was like, yeah, whoever gave this movie a good review was friends with the director or whatever, your family or your mom or dad. And I'm like, man, this is just ridiculous, man. You don't need to attack people so roughly and so going to such.
That's horrible.
So that's one of the few times I did go after somebody. Other than that, I don't care. If you don't like the movie, that's fine. Yeah. Review the movie and tell it, what you didn't like or whatever, or what you did, but just don't attack people on a personal level. But nowadays with the internet, man, it's easy to hide behind a keyboard.
I know it
trash
is.
Everybody.
It is.
I'm like, come and see me at a convention and trash these people into my face, and let's see what happens.
Right, exactly.
Especially trashing Linnea. How can you trash Linnea Quigley, man?
I know she's in the world. She's so sweet. She is. Like, I met her at quite a few horror cons. She's like such a nice person.
I've known her 25 years, man, and she's always been the same.
Yeah.
And she's a good person, and she did Bone Hill Road with us in Clownado, and we're probably going to do something again here pretty soon. She's good people, and there's no reason to attack somebody like that.
Wow.
It's all about being. It's all, you know what? It's all, at the end of the day, it's all about bringing something positive into the world, man. Let's all
Oh, I
bring
know.
positive things into this dark world. That's what it's about.
Damn. And
At least try, right?
I know, my God. And with your new film coming out, final final call, or like once the movie's out, where can fans watch it at?
It's going to be available everywhere. It surprises me sometimes because, like with Bonehill Road and Clownado, they were at Walmart and FYE and Family Video and Barnes and Noble and all these stores. It was out there. It was a retail,
Oh
which made
yeah.
me like really thankful and glad. Wild Eye Releasing Rob does such a fantastic job with my movies. He and I have known each other a long time, and he really puts his heart behind this. And he got my films everywhere. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I'm in other cities. I'm in LA, or I'm down in Texas, or wherever I'm at a convention or a film festival. And I go in these stores and there's my movie sitting there. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. It's mind blowing. It's Twilight Zone stuff. So I really don't know all the stores, but I know it's going to be not only streaming or VOD. I know it's going to have physical release also, which is my number one thing. I want a physical release above everything else. The grid will go down, and then no one's going to have a movie to watch. So you definitely want to, have your stuff so you can just pull it out and throw it in your player and watch it. So
Yeah.
that's what it's all about for me, man. It's all about trying to take that stuff and make sure it's on physical and available everywhere. And I know that it will be. I mean, it's going to be in all the online retailers, but I think it'll also be in some of the stores. I'm hoping we'll be seeing it in Walmart and Redbox and picking this thing up everywhere. So that's my hope.
Okay, nice. And where can fans find you at?
I'm easy to find. I'm on Facebook. You can, on one of the pages, I got two pages. One of them I've got me and my dog, and on the other one I'm with Fred Olin Ray and Chris Olin Ray. There's a picture of us, and we're on the set of one of Fred's movies for Lifetime. So if you see either one of those on Facebook, just hit me up. Also, you can reach me via my website, zombiebloodbath.com, which does need an updating pretty soon. It's about a year or two behind schedule because of this COVID stuff. But you go there and you hit me up. You can hit me there. My email's on there and everything else. Zombiebloodbath.com. You can't forget that. So yeah, hit me
exactly.
up any of those places. Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find out there. You put in Todd Sheets, and I'm pretty much everywhere.
Okay, sweet. Well, thank you so much for taking time out and coming on the show and talking about your new horror film that's coming out.
Hey, man, I appreciate you doing this because it's all about you, man. You guys. See, without you guys, no one's gonna know about our films. No one's gonna react to them. No one's gonna hear about them and see them. And you give our films extra life, man. You're a part of that equation. We make them, we create them, we put them together, then we put them out into the world, and you guys keep them alive. So you're a very important part of this, man. So I really appreciate what you do.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, it's the truth, man. You just keep up the good work for real, and send me that information. And I'll give you some screeners you can yell about.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're very welcome, man. You have a great night.
All right, buddy. You too.
Take care.
And thanks. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.